Today on Zestology, if you sleep poorly, if you breathe poorly, we've got some solutions for you. They include breathwork and mouth taping, but it's not just breathwork and mouth taping. We're talking about all things to do with the breath today on Zestology.
Hi, I'm Tony. I'm an author, presenter at Sky Sports, and years ago I went to the jungle and got ill. Very ill. So this is my podcast adventure to find more energy. It's packed with biohacking, science, health tech, supplements, and some of the most well-known experts on the planet.
This is something I spent 4 months of my life doing with electrodes glued to my head so that you can do a lifetime worth of meditation.
Decide what you don't give a fuck about, which is something you don't care about.
Some of it gets quite out there.
I had some stem cells sent up to my house that I had stored, and then I injected myself with mannitol.
And we even hack hangovers.
Alcohol is poisonous. So is water and oxygen in the wrong dosage.
So that's my podcast, Zestology. Live life with energy, vitality, and motivation.
Hello again, midsummer here in the UK, and I'm walking around recording this podcast intro in West London, and glorious weather it is as well. And hope you are having a good summer wherever you are listening to Zestology, if you're in the Northern Hemisphere. And today's podcast is with someone who's been on this podcast before, who came on in sort of February, March time, and since then we met in person for the first time. So Anna Marie Gough was on this podcast before, and last time we spoke a bit about breathwork, but we spoke more about ice baths and the power of ice baths. But really what Anna does is she encourages people to do the breath work while they're in the ice bath, and that's the whole Wim Hof thing. When Wim Hof came on this podcast, he was talking about how, look, the way, if you get into an ice bath for a couple of minutes and you're not focusing on your breathing, you're going to want to get out after about 10 seconds. So that's the secret to sinking into it and to living the experience and to, ultimately getting through it and feeling okay. And when the 2 minutes is up, thinking, I could do another 20 seconds here, but I won't. And Anna Marie Gough is just so good on breathwork. So we wanted to do another podcast more specifically on breathwork because I find it so powerful. There's something about some of the breathwork that I've been doing recently. I share some of the stuff I've been doing on this podcast today, that it almost feels like I've done a workout afterwards in terms of the mood elevation that I get. And that's what I wanted to chat to Anna again. And also, we've now become firm friends in person, and I wanted to record this podcast. So that's what's going on today. Hope you enjoy it. Hope you find it useful. Here is Anna Marie Gough once again on Zestology.
Well, it's really nice to see you again. The last time we met, I came and had a very civilised afternoon in your garden, and we talked about all things sort of biohacking, breathwork, ice baths. That was lovely. It's really nice to hang out.
Yeah, well, sit around the fire pit, just be.
And it's sort of like, it's just so nice. And I think often in summer in the UK, you can sit inside and look out the window and think, oh, the weather's not very nice. But when you actually get out in the garden, even if it's not that warm, it's bloody lovely, isn't it?
Yeah, you get the fresh air on your cheeks. I think we've become a bit wimpy, haven't we?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm the opposite because I love the cold. So to me, it's like, even if it's raining, now let's go and sit outside, feel the rain on our cheeks.
Do you? Do you like the cold all the time, not just when you get in the ice bath?
No, I love the cold. The heat recently is just like, I can't stand it. It's oppressive. It's very, I think we have humidity here quite badly. Humidity and me just don't go well together. And I think in a past life, I was probably born in some country that was like freezing cold because I have to have my bedroom's like an igloo. Dark.
Yeah.
Cold, there's fans. I just like to be cool, and I sleep much better when it's like
that. I don't know if you've heard of these. There's a product called Chili Pad, and there are other products that do the same thing, but it's basically a layer of it's sort of like a blanket, and it goes on your bed. Yeah, but it really is. I mean, it cools you down. You can set it to whatever temperature you like. So in hot weather like this,
what's it called?
And you can split it. So if your other half likes a warmer bed than you do, they can be warmer. It's called that was called Chili Pad, the one that I've used.
Right.
And it's great. I mean, in summer, what it does is it just cools your body down. And they found that your body really wants to be quite cool, especially once you get older. There's a very narrow window in which you're the perfect temperature for you to sleep in, and you sleep very, very well.
Yeah, I remember, when I was younger. Bloody hell, I'm knocking on a bit now, but I remember when I was younger.
Not.
I am.
Ridiculous.
But now I'm in my second spring.
Second spring.
I like that. And I'm far too immature to be my age. So for me, when I was younger, it didn't bother me, the heat. It must be a hormonal thing or an aging thing. As you get older, I just feel more comfortable. I love sunshine, so don't get me wrong. I don't like the dark, the rain. I love those odd days like that in the winter where you get warm and cozy and snuggled up. But really, I love the sunshine, but I would prefer a really crisp, ice cold day with sunshine than a really hot sunshine day.
Yeah. Oh, you must look into the chili pad. I think it's really interesting technology, actually.
Yeah, I might get Darren one as well.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Well, that's perfect, because what you do is I think it's like one blanket with two sort of mini little boxes that go at the end of the bed. But what you do is you set each individual box so you can set your perfect temperature. He can as well. And then you're lying there and it's nice.
It just sounds like heaven.
When I used it, it was probably back in 2017 or something like that. And I don't think the technology was as good as it is now. And it was quite loud. Now these things are really slick, but then it wasn't quite as good. And I haven't gone back since, but I did like it.
I'll be having a look. I'll be thinking that one.
Yeah. So when I came over, we didn't do an ice bath together, but we must do that next time.
We're going to get you over with your little one.
Yeah. Yeah. And how are you getting on with the ice baths and the oxygen advantage and the breathwork and everything else as well? How's that all been going since we last spoke to you on the podcast?
Yeah, well, the ice baths, so, I do private. It's lovely because I'm lucky. I've got sort of everything at home, but I'm not somebody who can just work at home. I like to be getting out. So I can travel, with the ice baths. So I did 2 festivals, which I talked to you about. I've got another one coming up in August, which is a big one. That's the Carfest one with Chris Evans. So that'll be a big one. And getting back to sort of talking about, really honestly, about how even though we're in this wellness industry and we've done all the work on ourselves, we still have to be very mindful. And sometimes we get it wrong. Sometimes, especially when we're running our own business, we're doing the practices, but we're not being mindful in those moments while we're doing them because we're thinking, I've got to do that email, I've got to do that. We're running 100 miles an hour.
Yes.
I did 2 back-to-back festivals that were really quite intense. They were brilliant. And then I worked in between them and I had like a bit of a mini burnout, not major, but just I thought, oh my God, I feel knackered because we're holding space. And I think as facilitators, whatever modality that looks like to you, when you're holding space for people, don't underestimate sort of how that can sort of impact you on a certain level.
I find it exhausting.
Yeah, because when you're in the moment, when I'm doing the ice baths, it's all about becoming Vikings. We're getting charged up and I'm going into the zone with them. I'm running on adrenaline. The drums are pumping. It's all going off.
Yeah.
But then, you might have people crying, you might have people laughing, you get all these different emotions. It's only sort of a couple of days after you finish that you go, holy shit, I am absolutely. And I mean, I think at the big retreat, we had maybe 120, 130 go through in a couple of days. And then the following weekend, maybe 50. So, that's quite an intense amount of people to do in a short amount of time. But I love it. But what did it teach me? Don't do 2 back-to-back festivals.
Yeah.
Or at the very least,
look after yourself.
Or give that middle week in between off. Just literally have it completely off. But I think, we talked, because we didn't talk about this last time, is sort of the other branch of my work, which is, something I feel really passionately about, which is breath work, So whether that be pranayama, which a lot of people, sort of... they see that as a bit more spiritual, that's linked to sort of yoga practices and Pilates and things like that, Kundalini. But for me, the oxygen advantage is it's something that I think is sort of super powerful for supporting people with real sort of respiratory conditions or real chronic overbreathers or asthmatics. So it's a much more clinical setting for people. So it's not where I'm laying them down on a mat and, getting them all cozy. It's clinical. I'm observing how they're breathing and doing little tests on them and monitoring them and creating a bespoke program for them. So, when they leave me, they've been given sort of a follow-up and then we just sort of check, and we're monitoring more closely with that. But with that, although it's not as sort of blissful, let's say, as just laying down and listening to music and hearing a soft voice guiding you through a practice, to me, it's more effective. To me, I don't think you even need to sort of be presenting with, asthma, chronic sleep apnea, a lung condition. To me, it can help people if they're just feeling really stressed, because generally if we're really stressed or we're anxious, our nervous system is a bit dysregulated. And we know the first thing that goes when that gets out of kilter is our breath. And we are, we are literally, we're not looking like we're breathing like that, but that is how it's feeling to our nervous system. Yeah. So to me, it's really important to really, I'm putting a lot more of my focus, because the cold is set up now, the retreat space is set up now. That took up a lot of my sort of energy and time. So now it's more getting the respiratory hub going, really promoting the benefits of Oxygen Advantage.
Great.
Work with local clinics and bits and bobs like that.
Well, I think I would be so fascinated to know what you think of my breathing, because I have found recently, I've been doing, obviously, that breathwork practices have always resonated with me, which is a lot of what we talked about when we were met up in person. And I've done lots of sort of Qigong over the last few years with Katie Brindle, who you know as well. And more recently, I've been doing different types of breath work, including using a brilliant app called Othership, which is fantastic. It's a breathwork app. And I can't really think of any other practice that leaves me feeling so different so quickly. And I'm not quite sure why it is, but I just wonder if I actually don't breathe that deeply normally, which is why it resonates so much.
I think for most, we're shallow breathing. Even when I do an example with somebody, I did an Oxygen Advantage session yesterday with somebody. I said, let's just spend a few minutes just really concentrating on where we're bringing the air in, how we're bringing the air in, how deep we're moving the air down into the body, and just become a bit mindful and present. And I sat with her and we did it over Zoom, and I had my eyes closed, and I said, just put your hand on your belly and just focus on the breath, anchor it down we're just going to focus on the breath landing down into the diaphragm, into the belly. So making the belly rise and just doing that. Because I've been talking for about 10 minutes before that. And this, when we're talking, we're not breathing properly for starters. So just me doing that for a couple of minutes, I was sort of, when I'd done it, I was like, whoa. Yeah. And why does this happen? One, because we're not becoming aware. We're not aware of how we're breathing throughout our day. It's something we've lost our connection with, because it's not sexy. It's not visual. It's not something that we do and will get ripped up. So I think, and it's something that's part of our autonomic nervous system. So for anybody who's listening, going, oh my God, what's she talking about? The autonomic nervous system is the part of our nervous system that just moves and operates the functions of the body without us needing to think about it. They're automatic. But the breath is the one part of it that we can actually alter and change our state with thought alone. So you go, I need a bit more energy. I'll do that breath practice because that's gonna wrap me up. So you can change your state through your breath, which is part of your autonomic nervous system. Now, with our digestion, we can't go, oh, right, well, when I eat that piece of bread, I want to break that down properly. So I need to get my sort of gastric juices flowing a bit more. So I'm going to use, it doesn't work on the digestion. So the breath is a very unique part of this automatic part of our body that we can change with thought alone. So why would we not? It frustrates me because people go, oh, breath work, load of nonsense. Okay, let me just put you through a session and let's just see if you don't feel a bit better. So I think a lot of it is, but it's not glamorous, it's not visual, it's not, we're very tied up on appearance and, quick fixes. And I think especially with the Oxygen Advantage, it's commitment, it's daily practice.
Yeah.
I try and say to people, I want you to look at your respiratory system. They come to me, they go, I'm knackered, I'm waking up with brain fog, I'm wheezing, I'm this, I'm that, I'm waking up with a dry mouth. I want them to look at it as though it's, as important as the muscles that we can see. In fact, more important. Because if we're getting the gas exchange working properly within the body and we're getting oxygen to the brain, so the brain needs 20% of our oxygen uptake. That's a lot for this bit. I know the brain weighs a lot and it's work, but just that space alone needs 20% of our oxygen. So for me, it's, I feel hugely passionately about it now without any, because before I used to be quite embarrassed going with people, ridiculous breath. I'm like, no. Let me give you some facts here.
Yeah.
And they go, oh, wow, yes, okay. So keep it simple, keep it to point. Don't make it too confusing for people and you'll get the message through.
Yeah.
Very much my message.
Interrupting this podcast for one moment to remind you that my podcast partners today are BiOptimizers and Magnesium Breakthrough. If you would like a shortcut to better sleep, more energy and a calmer, more stable mood, and who wouldn't want that, then you need to make sure you're supplementing with magnesium daily, but not any magnesium, because about 75% of us are magnesium deficient, but there are actually 7 unique forms of magnesium. You need to get all of them if you want to experience its calming, health-enhancing effects. That is why I recommend Magnesium Breakthrough by BiOptimizers. And I took one probably about an hour ago. I take it twice a day sometimes, maybe once so far today, but often twice a day. It's the only organic, that's important, full spectrum magnesium supplement that includes 7 unique forms of magnesium. And, I've been partnering with BiOptimizers for a couple of years now, and they've had a couple of months off the podcast, and they are now back, and I'm very pleased about that. So you can go to magbreakthrough.com/zestology. And even when they weren't partnering with me, I was still taking Magnesium Breakthrough. Go to magbreakthrough.com/zestology, and you can get a discount if you use Zestology 10. And that works worldwide as well. If you're in the UK, you can go to the UK BiOptimizers site and use that same discount code, Zestology 10. So better sleep, more energy, stronger bones, healthier blood pressure. For me, it helps me sleep at night and relax and definitely get less inflamed as well. Use the code Zestology 10 at the website magbreakthrough.com/zestology. Now back to the show.
And there's something about breathwork when you hold the breath and then you release. That feels amazing.
The pause.
If you hold it for quite a long time, then you release it. And also when you sort of breathe out all the way and then you hold on the out, it's sort of it's slightly uncomfortable at first, but that also feels amazing as well. That sort of stillness. What is that?
I just say I call it the place of surrender, where we're just, the pause is sort of allowing things to settle. So in between the body working, so, while we're breathing in and we're breathing out, our body is using energy. So to create that really lovely sort of pause at the top and the bottom is just sort of, it's a softening. It's a softening into the body. But I know what you mean. There are other breath practices, and I use them as I put people in, or before I put them into the cold. We do some quite powerful Wim Hof stuff.
Right,
Ventilation. We're moving people into hyperventilation, but safely. We want to get the body excited. And I think that's what's exciting to me about breath work is it's free. Yes, you might need a bit of coaching, but once you've got it, once you've done your research, once you've had a bit of coaching, it's something that can really change your life. Really change your life. I saw somebody who had chronic obstructive sleep apnea. So the sort of soft palate of the top of the mouth almost caves in and, you stop breathing during your sleep. Now, all of these things are not too bad when we're younger and we're sort of all of our cells are thriving and we're energetic. But as we get older and things are sort of running at a slower pace, that's really quite dangerous to be living with that. It can upset your biochemistry, it can upset your cardiac rhythm, it can upset your digestion. And as well as I do, all of these things are intrinsically linked. And if one thing goes out of kilter, it can just start to sort of manifest into things that really become quite chronic. So this guy came to see me. He was a brilliant client, very committed. So he was adding in other things like diet and stopping drinking. So he was brilliant. He wore one of the Aura rings.
Oh yeah, I got one of them on there. Yeah.
Yeah. And his readings were quite bad, so at night, just chronically, he was stopping breathing throughout the night. Within a few months, he came back to me. He said, look at my readings now. He did the work and we just had a few sessions together. His sleep apnea had gone.
Wow.
He'd lost weight as well. Obviously, all of the other things that came.
That's crazy, isn't it?
So but I'd really like to talk about mouth taping while we're talking about an advantage, because that is what he bought in.
Yeah.
So when people go, oh my God, that sounds horrendous. I'm trying to see if I've got any of my mouth tape here. So that sounds hideous. Yeah, it does sound a bit. If you're not in the industry and it's the first time somebody's saying to you, take your gob up. Yeah, it's a bit frightening. But there's ways and means to get you there. So I put a few questions to people. How do you sleep? Do you wake up a lot in the night to go to the loo? When you wake up, have you got a dry mouth? Are you foggy? Are you achy? You're just feeling. So I think when you ask them the questions, they're going, yeah, no, not that one. Yeah, my mouth's as dry as a flip-flop, my husband says. So it's okay. Let's see if we can introduce, well, why do I want to take my mouth up? Keep it simple. When you're asleep, if you're laying in bed, you're asleep for, let's say, 6, 7, 8 hours, you've got your mouth wide open. We're unconscious. These are hours of restoration, restore, recovery, rejuvenation, relaxation. I'm laying in bed like this. Also the positioning of how we're sleeping as well. If we're like that, it's like constricting. We're not even aware we're doing it. So get your positioning right. And just, the mouth's wide open. The brain has a center called the amygdala, which is our fear center. So it's what keeps us safe. If we're breathing with our mouth open, that amygdala is sort of saying to our nervous system, she's in trouble. She's in trouble. So again, a question to people, do you wake up in the morning with high stress, anxiety? Literally, the alarm bell goes off the minute your eyes open. And I speak from experience, that's been me many, many, many times. I've woken up and you're wired, but you're just knackered and you are in high cortisol. So we already have high cortisol in the morning, but when we're putting our body through 7 or 8 hours, hopefully, of sleep, but we're not creating this beautiful portal where we're getting the oxygen into our body properly, which is just using the nose, and we're using the mouth and we're getting all of that rubbish coming in and we're not filtering the air, but also it's the amygdala putting us into a state of stress. And yes, it's not where we're being chased by lions, but it's indicating we are under stress because we're sleeping, we're breathing shallowly while we're asleep. So to me, it's very, very simple and an easy way to just eliminate that problem, which is huge for so much of a big part of your day or night, is to get people to really encourage them. If there's one thing I think any OA instructor would say is encourage everybody to take up at night.
Yeah.
Everybody.
I found that I enjoyed it. And there's a couple of other things that James Nestor's book sort of opened my eyes to, which is if you're sort of getting a bit histamine intolerance at night with sinuses, and for me at the moment, it seems sinuses are first thing to go when my immune system is a bit lower. Paradoxically, taping up the mouth does not make it harder to sleep. It makes it easier.
Yeah.
Because all that airflow going in and out the nostrils opens up the airways. It doesn't close them up.
No, because you've got the increase in nitric oxide, so another gas that's not only brilliant for your immune system, which we all want a dose of, but it acts as a vasodilator, or opens up everything, relaxes. I think the smooth muscle of the blood vessels. So again, to keep it simple, we're bringing up more of this really magnificent gas into the body, but I want people to just sort of imagine when they're doing this, that everything is relaxing in the body.
Yeah.
Everything's relaxing. So, so we're creating this portal that isn't under tension and constriction.
Yeah.
open and relaxed, the smooth muscles are relaxed, and the oxygen's coming in, and the transportation is working properly. So it's so cheap. And it's
the other thing you mentioned is going to the loo in the middle of the night, which on and off has been a problem for me over the years, but I think that's made a difference to me, definitely.
Yeah. And my son, he's struggled with that, and he started taping now. And there's been a improvement with that.
Yeah.
Now, that's quite sciencey, and I wouldn't want to do that an injustice by explaining that, because I did touch on that when I did my training, but I haven't had a lot of experience. But there is a reason, but I wouldn't want to try and attempt to talk about what the cause of that is, because I think there's somebody else who could explain that much better, i.e. Patrick McEwen himself. But it's not something, apart from with my son. And I remember Patrick just saying, just get him to tape up, because, this is probably what's happening.
Yeah.
But you know what? We want to be breathing. We want to get oxygen into our bodies properly, especially while we're, laying in bed and we're resting. We want to get our cells oxygenated. We want to get our brains oxygenated. And
in the James Nestor book, he blocks up his nose for a week, doesn't he? And he only breathes through his mouth. Actually, maybe more than a week. And it's horrendous how ill he gets, basically.
And it's like 28 days or something. And it just sounds horrendous. And I think, again, one, I just like simplicity, and it's because then the people can relate to the message. So it's the nose is a filter. We've got these little micro hairs in our nostrils. We warm the air. We clean the air. We've got enough rubbish in our air. There's no purpose for using our mouth to breathe. There's no benefit at all by using our mouth to breathe, obviously, unless we're hugely congested.
Yeah.
So nasal breathing, slower breathing, lighter breathing, and then working on, there's the three things, the biomechanics. So, using the nose, and then sort of really just slowly, slow and deep down into the belly. And then the cadence, so the rhythm of the breath, so again, just slowing it down. Whereas at the moment, we're sort of walking around unconsciously, just, we're almost grasping all the time. And then we wonder why we feel so knackered and just sort of achy. And all of these sort of chronic conditions are happening.
So obviously on this podcast, I asked for a book recommendation. Would you recommend, there is an Oxygen Advantage book, isn't there?
Yeah.
Good.
It's brilliant. Yeah, it's brilliant. I mean, I think he's done more than one book, but the Oxygen Advantage, if you want a Bible.
Yeah.
Breathing. But what I want to put out there is he is the most wonderful man as well. And I'm not
This is Patrick McEwen. McEwen, sorry.
I'm certainly not saying that to be teacher's pet. I say it to everyone. He's such a wonderful teacher. He's got so much knowledge. You can get lost in it a little bit because he just knows so much. But he's so kind. He's so generous, and he's so authentic. And I think he is making such a difference to so many people. And I think that he, along with the James Nestors, are really making people start to listen and believe in it now.
Yeah.
And then bringing on the instructors, training people up, and then we can continue to do the brilliant work that he's created.
Well, that's a good book recommendation. What about one tip for living with more energy and vitality for people?
Tape your mouth at night. Tape your mouth at night, honestly, because if you optimize your sleep and get good quality sleep, get the oxygen into your cells, as we've said, to me, I'm not going to say go for a run. It's make sure you are getting that body soaked with oxygen as much as you can during the night. So try taping up.
What's your tape of choice?
I've used both. So micropore is brilliant, 3 mil micropore. And I say to people, just put 2 little strips there, put a little tab over when you begin, because you'll wake up maybe the first couple. So you've got, a panic flip in case you don't know what's going on. Or Myotape by Patrick is brilliant. So through the Oxygen Advantage, that's really good. And that's a little bit more pliable. So that's really good.
I think I'd just buy a £3 surgical tape from Amazon. Yeah.
It's fine.
Yeah.
Honestly.
Yeah.
Then, and if guys have got beards and all of that going on, you just literally sort of put a strip and just just stick it onto the lips.
Yeah.
So you do adapt and build it into your routine during the evening before you go to bed. So you're not having that, oh my God, I've got to sort of get this over my mouth before I go into bed. I'm nervous. Adapt to it. Adapt to it before you go to bed. You will really notice the difference. Just persevere with it.
Anna, it's lovely to see you and speak to you as always.
And
next time we'll see you. Get the ice in.
Yeah. Shocking host. Yeah. All right. I'll make it super cold for you.
The thing is, I'm such a wuss that sort of like, when I came over last time and we just sort of chatted, we didn't do an ice bath, I was sort of like, oh, thank goodness for that.
You won't get away with it again. I
right.
you, before September, you're coming in.
Brilliant. My son will come too, and he'll be like, he loves testing the water. Oh yeah, it's cold, Daddy.
Oh yeah. You can have a little paddle. You can go in the warmer tub. You can go and have fun in there.
That is it for this week's podcast. Thank you so much for listening. Plenty more good stuff coming up over the summer. I just want to say a quick thank you to our podcast partners. Firstly, BiOptimizers and Magnesium Breakthrough. And if you go to magbreakthrough.com/zestology and use the code zestology10, you can get 10% off. And in this hot weather, because it is hot where I am right now, and it's not always hot where I am right now in the UK, I feel like you do need extra magnesium. I've been doing a lot of hiking recently, and if I don't take some extra magnesium after a long day of hiking, I sort of feel like I get a bit jerky-legged, which isn't probably the technical term, but is the only way to describe the fact that my body needs a little bit more magnesium, and I've probably lost a lot of electrolytes, minerals and nutrition from all the sweat and the exercise that's been going on. So Mag Breakthrough is the solution, I think, and obviously BiOptimizers have a whole range of supplements, and people have caught on to the fact that this discount, Zestology 10, works for all the BiOptimizers products. It's Mag Breakthrough that are the partners for this show, but you can use the Zestology 10 discount code for any BiOptimizers product, and honestly, I'd be delighted if you do, because the more times that you use a discount code that I mention on this show, the more that my partners like to stay on with me. And it doesn't bring in a massive amount of money having these podcast partners, but it does help to keep the lights on at Zestology. So thank you for listening to this bit at the end. Also, thank you to Well Easy. I am so delighted to be partnering up with Well Easy. They do a fantastic job of offering healthy groceries and deliveries at very affordable prices. The average family saves 250 quid a year with Well Easy, which is absolutely brilliant. And I'm going to be honest, I think we save a lot more than that on our healthy groceries. I've mentioned some of my favourites recently. We love the Namato sauce. We love the unrefined bars. All the hunter and gather stuff is there. And if you are like me, you're basically on a hunter and gather drip. With the mayos that they do and the healthy ketchups and that sort of thing, all of that pretty much 20% off the whole lot. So it's brilliant. Go to welleasy.co.uk and use the code Zestology10 for £10 off your first order. So that'll take the edge off nicely. And it's worth just doing in order to see, because you get it in a couple of days and you will quickly notice the difference between that and using Ocado or wherever you go, or Whole Foods, or wherever you go normally to buy your healthy stuff. They also do, if you're like me, you also use stuff like Ecover dishwasher tablets. Well, that's 15 quid every time you buy Ecover dishwasher tablets. So if you can immediately get 2 or 3 quid off that, it's quite satisfying, isn't it? They do all the cleaning products for the house. We even get our loo roll there. Go to welleasy.co.uk and use the code Zestology10. That is it for this podcast. Thank you for listening. See you next time.